trickles in. We are expecting quite a crowd tonight, so we might sit here and talk for a minute just as we have people coming into the waiting room and getting people in. Y'all, if you would, please just drop your name in the chat and where you're from. If you're visiting, let us know if you are from an Indivisible group, if you're a leader in your Indivisible group, if you're from 5051 or Swing Left, and if you're a leader in those groups, because we'd really like to know. We'd love to collaborate with you in future, and you'll understand once we get to that part of the conversation. Hey, Cecilia. Diane, or I'm sorry, Cecilia, that's me. Hi, Diane. You said, hey, Cecilia. Sorry. Oh my gosh.
I was like, we have two Cecilias today? I'm so excited.
No, I mean, we might have two Cecilias, but somebody was saying hi to me. Hi, Diane. I got really excited there.
Hello, good to hear from you and see you.
Good to hear from you too. All right.
Just a note to everybody, this is being recorded. We're doing a live YouTube video, which will be available on the NWSOFA.org. That's NWSOFA, stands for Northwest Suburbs Organizing for Action. And it's on our YouTube account. Once you go to the website, you just click on YouTube channel and voila. And today I think we have almost 12 or 13 different videos up there from the last week and a half. So just wanted to let everyone know you are on video. Cecilia, it is all yours.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to Vision Forward. The most powerful weapon on earth is the human soul on fire. And tonight, we ignite. We are here in a moment of chaos and clarity, when power is being used to erase the truth, to hoard rights, and shrink the meaning of democracy. But we're not retreating. We are regrouping, remembering what we believe in, and building together what comes next. This country was founded on promises, but it rarely delivered. The Constitution spoke of we the people, yet women, Black and Indigenous people, immigrants, disabled folks, and queer communities were left out from the beginning. Exclusion was the design. And still, people rose. They saw the cracks and chose to build anyway. They dared to believe in more. Tonight, we do what they did. We move from vision to values to reality. Because vision alone is not enough. You can't be what you can't see. Marian Wright Edelman. Because your ideas are the spark. We are choosing to see the future we deserve. Together, out loud, in public, with each other. That's organizing. Not just resistance, but reclamation, invention, community. A refusal to accept what is when we know what could be. So here's where we stand. We believe in a democracy and justice that serve everyone, accessible and true. We believe people matter more than profits, that safety comes from belonging, not policing, that to thrive is a right, not a reward. And we're not going back to normal. Normal failed too many. We are going forward. Vision forward isn't a slogan. It's a movement, a commitment, a call. What future do we deserve, and how do we organize to build it? Whether you're a strategist or a student, an overworked parent, or a poet, you belong here. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to do everything. You just have to show up. Because when you show up together, when we build power, that can't be ignored. We're not waiting for permission. We're not asking to be rescued. We are becoming the leaders that we've been waiting for. So I ask, what is your fire? What's the promise that you refuse to let die? What's the future that you are ready to build? Because your ideas are the spark. Marion Wright Edelman. Your story is the ember, your presence is the power, and together we'll light this fire and move this vision forward. With today's team, your presenters are Adrian, Chris, Cecilia, and Rebecca. Co-facilitators, Boot Money, Bruce, Stephanie, and Melissa. And most importantly, you. And we thank you so much for being here. On to Chris. Oh, Chris, we can't hear you.
I need to unmute myself. How about that? Hi, everybody. My name is Chris. This is our second session of Vision Forward. In a minute, I'm going to go over and do an overview of the overall initiative and why we're here today. But first, I wanted to start and give you a little bit of background on how we got here. So for many of you, but maybe not all of you on the call, you may be attending the morning coffee and conversation sessions that Bill Davis and Debbie Rudy facilitate, and Jim, where we just have a casual conversation every morning at 9 o'clock. But what you may not know is that after the coffee and conversation hour, we have kind of an informal after hours call. And so on one day in late May, we were having a conversation and we were sitting around and there was a lot of frustration expressed and we were lamenting, how good the regime is with the messaging, and again, kind of lamenting the loss of the last election and the need for better and more clear messaging so we could communicate what we stand for. Because we had a sense that we were always reacting to, and counter messaging, how the GOP as a party was trying to define us. And so out of that came a need during this conversation that, we need something where we come up with better messaging, and we need to really lay out a plan and a vision, going forward as we go into, 2029. So one of the concerns with our messaging was that it needed to be simple, it needed to be clear, it needed to be conversational, and that, you know, sometimes it was perceived as elitist or too politically correct and overly complicated, and it just didn't connect to everyday people. So, and because of that problem with messaging, that many people really just didn't get what we as a party stood for. And, you know, on important issues like what we call bread and butter issues or kitchen table issues, like making living affordable for families and just other things that are important in people's daily lives. So, two things actually came out of that one, and if you can believe it, 2 hour after hours. So it was longer than our normal after hours. And so one idea was the sorting soup group that Cecilia leads, and we kind of back her up. And then this Vision Forward group. So you, if this is your first time here, we're not too far in the project. So we're happy to have you here. So what I want to do is just go on and talk about our goals and objectives for tonight. So as you can see on the slide, we want to communicate what we see for America's future through messaging that's clear and compelling and true to our values. And we have the project divided up into several phases. And so this somewhat aligns with the phases, and Rebecca's going to get into those in a minute in more depth. But we started with, in our last session, just talking about our shared pro-democracy values. You're on the next phase where we're going to envision this compelling future for the country going forward. And then we are going to come up with a simple policy framework, and we already have some of the members of our overall coffee and conversation group that have already started laying that out on our Discord channel. And of course, we know what people are really excited about is getting to those messaging, statements. And we've been so fortunate to have at least 3 or 4 people on our overall coffee and conversation team that have great background in messaging. So we're excited about that as we get to that phase. All right, go ahead, next slide, Rebecca. And so this is kind of where we're going tonight. So we've already talked about the overview. Rebecca will give that refresher for those who missed the first session where we brainstorm what our shared values are, and we'll give you an opportunity to add anything we missed, and she'll ask you to do that just in the chat. And then this is the exciting part, and then we will go into breakout rooms and just literally imagine the America that we know and dream that we can be. So I think that's going to be exciting for all of us. So you don't have to color within the lines. Everything is possible in that. So, and then after we leave the breakout rooms, we will have a group debrief. Everybody will come out of their breakout rooms. I think the breakout rooms last for about 30 minutes. And then everybody will outbrief their section. And then we will share the next steps and the way ahead. So now I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca.
Great, thank you so much. So as Dr. Chris mentioned, this is a roughly 5-phase project. And as she mentioned, we're not super far into it. So if you missed the first session, you haven't missed, you're not missing out too much because we're going to recap that one. But so just to break these phases down, the values phase, that's what we did in our last session, and we really focused on what does democracy mean to us as a group, and what do we hold as important and crucial to have in the future. And then, as she mentioned, today's meeting is focused on our vision. So imagining a picture of how our democracy and society could be, knowing that it absolutely is not living up to what it was promised to be. In future sessions, we'll have a focus on policy and platform as well as strategy. And we're really lucky there because Joe Woods is one of the members of Coffee and Conversations, and independently, he had already started working on some ideas in there. And so we have kind of a leg up, or at least a starting place for our collaboration to pick up and continue on. So that's actually super helpful. And then once we have all of the pieces in place, that's when we can really get down to the nitty-gritty um, messaging portion of our strategy. Um, because ultimately the messaging has to be consistent with all of the pieces that come before it. You can't have it be inconsistent with the strategy or promoting a different vision. So it really is kind of the last puzzle piece. Um, and as I mentioned, we will be focusing on vision tonight, but just for those who maybe missed the first session, I am going to recap our values. And before I do that, I just want to, I guess, have a note or take note of a couple of definitions here. So some folks draw a distinction between values and virtues, and they are definitionally different. Values being the things that we hold as like principles that guide our choices and actions. And they're sort of aspirational and ideas to strive for. Um, Whereas virtues, on the other hand, are traits or qualities or behaviors that let us put our actions into practice. So they're kind of characteristics or behaviors. So I have the example here of if our value is honesty, then our virtue needs to be we need to act honestly. So just for the purposes of keeping things a little bit simple, we're going to use the term values to describe both things. So not to get hung up on semantics or anything, we understand that if we have this value, then we need to act in a way that's going to bring that value to life. So just a quick note on that. And now we can dive into what we accomplished in our last meeting. So in our last meeting, we had a great conversation, and it was sort of based on this quote from Timothy Snyder, who wrote that great little book on tyranny and several other books. And he said, know what you stand for and what you think is good. So we talked about what we think is good, and we came up with a whole bunch of things. And so just by way of some participation for y'all, so we're not just like talking at you, um, have a quick look at our little word cloud here that we put together from that conversation and pick out one that you like, one or two that you think really speak to you about your values, your pro-democracy values. And maybe even more importantly, if there's something that's not on here that you think that we missed, definitely put that in the chat so that we can capture it in our documentation. So I will let people continue to read through this, process it a little bit, just as and I'm gonna move away from the word. Yes, thank you. People are putting it in the chat. I love it. Truth, freedom, diversity and equality, education, vote. These are all great. Thank you so much. I would add compassion. You are right, Judith. That is so important. Inclusion, dignity for all humans, freedom and accountability, integrity. Yes, thank you. So as we were looking at all of these values, like this word cloud, it's a little bit chaotic. It's a little hard to extract much meaning from it in this format. So as we were looking at this, all of these values seem to fall into a couple of categories for us, about 4 categories. And so you can sort of see how they break out. And I guess I'll put a little caveat that not all of these are classic values or virtues. Some of them are just things that we hold as sacred or that we hold as right and true, and we want them for ourselves and our fellow Americans and people that live in our communities. Um, so we're sort of identifying the categories that these group into as our core beliefs or core principles. So, for example, you can see freedom of speech, equal voice, vote, representation, rule of law, constitutional rights. Like these all fall under themes of freedom and democracy. So, like, the way that I categorize that would be inclusive, participatory, and centered on equal voice, rights, and power. John has a question in the chat. Can we get a copy of these graphics? Yes, I will put a PDF of this deck in at the end of the session today. So make sure you hang on until the end, or you won't get it. So our second category was fairness and equity. So this is really around the fact that every person has inherent value, and we have to care for the vulnerable in our communities. And we frankly have to acknowledge and address some systemic disparities that folks have been running up against for the last several hundred years. Opportunity to thrive is another one where, this country was founded as it's the land of opportunity, it's the land of promise. So shouldn't we be able to live up to that? And that's going to cover a variety of things. And I'm really excited to see where people's imaginations go there. And then the last one is better future for all. And the way I thought about this, and again, I'm really excited to see where everybody's minds go. But for me, I sort of wrote a description for myself and said, bridging differences to create a shared future that is sustainable, inclusive, and just. So this was our categorization. Again, we are more than happy to accept if you guys think that there are gaps or places that we did not think about, because we're just a couple of people. So we're living and learning. So I'm so excited to hear what everybody thinks about this. And now that we're grounded on the work that we've done so far, I think we're ready to turn our attention to the vision and what things can be. And I'm going to hand off to Adrienne for this part.
Thanks, Rebecca. Hey, everybody, I'm Adrienne. I'm familiar with some of you, and some of you look new, so welcome. For the next 30 minutes, we're going into breakout rooms. We're going to imagine a society beyond what we have been promised, without subjugation of others at its root. We are aiming at being as expansive as possible, imagining what freedom and safety could mean for all. So Dr. Melissa, some of you may know, she's not here today, unless she happens to pop in. She offered us a framing, saying, imagine we're starting a new democratic society on Venus. Mars has already been taken by you-know-who. And it's up to us to write the new Constitution's preamble for Venus. What values, rights, and responsibilities would be built in? What do we want our future country to look like? From idealistic fantasy to practical considerations, how will our values and 4 core beliefs come to life? These ideas will influence our platform, politics, and strategy in future sessions. But for now, When we go into the breakout rooms, we're going to select a scribe and a presenter. And then we're going to give over about 5 minutes per core value, and any ideas that are outside of the framework, kind of the 4 core values or pillars that we've mentioned, we'd really encourage them to be shared with the group. Those could expose any gaps that we haven't considered ourselves. So that's it. I think we're going to head to breakout rooms, correct?
Yes. Before we do that, so I will be sharing this slide for you guys to refer to.
I'm sorry, just a moment. I apologize. I was on mute, so y'all didn't hear me like for the last 30 seconds while I was speaking. I apologize. Ori mentioned something in the chat that is, I think we need to address before we go into breakout rooms. She had a comment that said, but this country was founded on the land of indigenous people that it has never fully recognized, which is a very valid point, which we are also not recognizing at this moment because we don't have an answer for at this moment.
And I think that can be part of the vision that
Exactly.
we absolutely need to acknowledge that, okay, maybe disparity is the wrong word to use there, but like systemic injustices, historical injustices that have been perpetrated on a lot of different groups, including Indigenous people.
Okay.
But thank you, Ori, for calling that out. It's an important consideration. Absolutely.
All right. I just wanted to make sure that we paid attention to that. Thank you.
Absolutely. So before we jump into the breakout rooms, like I mentioned, you guys will be able to see this slide for reference, just so you have access to it to refer back to. I did want to share some examples just that I came up with. So if you disagree, that's absolutely fine. And in fact, wonderful, because diversity of thought is more than accepted, it's encouraged. But just to give a couple of examples of what we're thinking about, at least my examples here, I jotted down a couple of answers. So democracy and freedom, for me, that means engaged and educated population. So we probably need some civics going on. Maybe there could be something like election duty where people have to serve as an election judge, or you know how people have to do jury duty? Like maybe there's some way to get folks more involved with elections, mandatory. I want the Supreme Court to be independent and have an enforceable ethics policy. And I would put that under fairness. Um, Opportunity to thrive, I think, just very basic, like billionaires need to pay their fair share. We all need access to healthcare, and then a better future for all. Like this could encompass like, okay, there's disinformation out there. So we need truth in politics. We need a free and flourishing press. We need energy sources, green energy sources. So this is just by way of getting the imagination going, that we don't have to bind ourselves to what is. Let's imagine what things could be. So I think that was where we were intending to go. But obviously, if you have a different perspective, make sure you share that in your breakout room. And as I said, a diversity of opinions is beautiful. Okay, I'm going to open all the rooms, and you guys should all go to the rooms automatically. First thing on the agenda for each room, choose a scribe, somebody who's going to take notes and is going to present out when we're all done. That should take real quick, 2 minutes, and then you can get into the discussion. So I'm going to send you all now, and then I'll send your facilitators out to you to get the conversations going. Okay, here we go. Ready? Go. Adrian, you are going to Seeds of Change. And Boot Money, you are going to New Shoots. Well, hold on. Hold off, Boot Money. I'll figure out where you're going. Bruce, I'm putting you in New Shoots. Cecilia, you are going to Point of Ignition. Dr. Chris going to, are people going? Yes, people are going. Dr. Chris is going to the Rising Tide. Let's see, there are some folks that don't have rooms. Let me see. One moment, hold please. Judith, one moment. Boot Money, I am sending you to, let's see, can't remember which one. Are going to New North Star. Money. And then other folks I'm going to send places. So hold tight and
Maybe that comes later. I don't know. We're just brainstorming, I think.
Hey,
This one.
hey, everyone.
Mission statement, and I thought she said that she was
hey,
gonna.
Dr. Chris, you
put
need
him in.
to go, you need to join with your phone too.
Yeah, but there's an issue. But anyway, I've joined with my computer, but are you going to show they're asking about the slide, the prompt slide?
Yes, I
Okay.
will.
Right.
Share.
Succeeding.
This is Chris. Yeah, I just was gonna say, so now you all should be able to see the framework. And so what we're doing is we're brainstorming. We have 30 minutes, so we're just kind of
Chris,
trying to fill in the blanks. But before we get started, if everybody could make
hey Chris, can you hear me? Can you need to go?
You guys, just one second, one sec. Sorry, Rebecca. Yeah.
You need to join the breakout room with both your phone and your computer.
Okay. All right. Are you reminding everybody about saving transcripts? Because I didn't see it on there.
I do that at the end.
Okay. But if we do it at the end, we won't be saving the transcripts in the breakout room?
Um, you'll at the end of the breakout room.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hello.
Um, I don't understand why you're attempting to put me in a different room than I was in.
Because I don't have a list of everybody's room that they were in. I was just trying to put you back in a room. Which room were you in?
Okay, I was in point of ignition.
Okay, let me try to put you there.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. Welcome back, everybody.
I lost all our notes in the chat in the room. Can I get them back?
Oh no,
Hey,
they don't show up.
Rebecca, I have a
No,
question
they
for you.
don't show up in this main room now.
Mm.
Now what?
Rebecca, when you save the transcripts, where is it saved to? Because it doesn't give you an option to save it it just says save transcripts. Where is it saving to?
It saves
you. Go ahead.
it saves to your local computer.
Where?
In my
does.
computer, it shows up in Documents, Zoom.
And in mine, it shows up in Finder.
Shows up where, CC?
In Finder, like
Mac.
I don't know what
If you're a
Finder is.
Mac.
Well, if you have a
oh,
Mac,
mine's Mac.
You
Yeah,
can
mine's a
use,
Mac.
Yeah.
if you have
I
a
have
Mac.
to apologize, but I forgot to transcribe, even though I had it written in my notes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Yeah, we'll have to.
Our transcription's
talk
also
to-
not going to come through.
Jim, don't worry.
Yeah.
I mean,
So you would open File Explorer and then click Documents. Documents. And then there should be a folder called Zoom. And then there should be a folder with today's date on it or the name of this meeting or mine's because I didn't hit save. But you should have a folder in there.
Could you repeat that?
Okay, so you in Windows, you would open File Explorer. It's the thing that looks like a little folder. And then down the left side,
I got it.
Is a thing that says Documents. You click Documents, and then you scroll down and double click Zoom.
and it should be there.
And then if you used the Save Transcript option, your transcript should be there. I didn't hit Save Transcript, so I didn't end up with one.
But we have
Oh, I
three.
didn't save, so I'm, never mind.
We had 2 people in our room that saved, so.
In any case,
Well, if we can go off of people's memory, that might be as good as it gets for some groups, which is fine. This was our first time really trying out that transcript functionality in all the breakout rooms. So if it didn't work flawlessly, then live and learn.
Rebecca, do you want us to send the transcripts to
list.
you? What do you want us to do with that?
Yes, if you could either here, I'll put my email in the chat. It's my name, Rebecca Hackman @gmail.com. Or if you just want to drop the file into the chat, that also works, whatever is easier for you. And I
Cool.
appreciate everybody who was able to do that.
Rebecca,
I
I
was
tried to
also
save.
trying to
I
scribble
tried to
notes as
save the
rapidly as
transcript
possible.
also.
Okay, thanks, Debbie. Was somebody else talking?
Laura
I think
has
that
her
was-
hand up.
I just
Okay.
wanted to
Okay.
ask, you're talking about transcripts, you're talking about the chat?
The transcript is it's the transcript of what people are saying out loud. Zoom has a function where it will convert it from speech to text, but it's a setting, it's something that you have to manually turn on when you go into a breakout room.
Okay, what you say, you have to manually turn it on. You mean any of us could do that, or?
Someone in the breakout room would have had to turn it on. And it might be co-hosts only. I'm not 100% sure about that.
Rebecca, two of us were able to turn on the transcripts in our room.
Okay.
How do you do that? How do you do it?
It's too late now.
Well, now,
Bruce.
Yeah, if I could, so this is Chris. So in the breakout room that I was in, I turned on the transcript. So I'm going to answer the question this way. We only intended for the facilitators to save the transcript. Now, as a participant in any Zoom call, you're able to save the transcript just like you're able to save the chat. You're able to save a transcript by going to the bottom of your computer, and after you'll see things like React and Share and things like apps, And one of those buttons is transcripts that you can click on, not just for this meeting, but any meeting. And you can turn it on and it will save the transcripts, just like you can go into the chat and click on those 3 dots at the top of the chat, and it'll give you an opportunity to save the chat. But for the purpose of today's session, we were just trying to capture all the dialogue that happened in the breakout rooms and have the facilitators save the transcript. And we may not have, may not have gotten them all, and that's okay, because normally we don't even, we just realize that it's a function that we can do, and that helps us when we're trying to compile some of the notes and the feedback. But as Rebecca explained, as we broke into this, we asked for every group to come up with a scribe. So we'll right now rely on just traditional, like I know like in my room, we had a scribe, but I was also taking notes myself on just the back of a piece of paper as people spoke. So we'll just do the best we can. This was kind of a dry run with all that. I think we'll, and then like Rebecca said, it may just be that we'll do some of this off of memory as the scribe briefs out their room session.
Yes, and I'm actually going to come out of presentation mode. And I'm going to jot down some notes in real time. So if one of the groups would like to share out, I would love to hear what y'all came up with.
Well, under democracy and freedom, we had codifying a lot of stuff in the Constitution that was just tradition, but not really specifically codified. A lot of stuff on the emollients clause needing to be enforced. Election as a duty, almost like a mandatory participation in elections. Popular vote for the president, get rid of the electoral college. Getting repeal Citizens United, businesses should not be controlling elections. Getting the money out of politics, absolutely no gerrymandering.
Awesome.
Stuff together. No life terms for justices.
Yeah, I don't understand how gerrymandering is even okay at all. It should be illegal.
Yes, it should be.
Great. I mean, I tried to capture some of those, and I do have the transcript running for our main group session. So anything that we do from here on out will be captured. If you say it out loud, we will get it. So even if I'm not typing it fast enough, we will capture it on when I have a chance after this meeting is over.
And you have our file.
What-
You want me to read ours?
Was she done with that group? Because I have a few items that she didn't.
Well, Anne had more for other categories.
Okay, sorry. Then yeah, that's probably
Yeah,
fine.
we're just doing democracy and freedom. I figured one of the other groups was going to chime in for the first one.
Understand. Sorry.
Oh, that was under democracy and freedom too, the one about the no terms for justices. Okay. Okay.
Well,
no,
we're kind of mixing categories a little bit, but
that's absolutely fine.
Do you want the different groups to speak up, or how do you want to do this, Rebecca?
Yes, I definitely want to hear from all the groups.
You want me to read ours? I'll read ours.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. So under democracy and freedom, we got no felons should be allowed to run for public office. This republic is based on the common welfare, which should be pointed up. Supreme Court justices impeachable, which they're supposed to be, but nobody has the balls to do it. What happened to we the people? And utter faithfulness to the Constitution. Under fairness and equity, access to communication. That's it, like the internet, like an online village, like nationwide free internet. Yeah, let's do that. Without economic democracy, we can't have democracy. No leaving behind the disabled and elderly. fair and just and humane process for coming to the United States to live and work. Special consideration to Indigenous people. Immigration policy that will keep our farms and construction sites in business. Under opportunity to thrive, clean air and water, access to healthcare, exclamation mark. Every human has a respectable place to call home, and that's decent housing, not slumlord housing. And we just put the word education because we felt like it ought to be under there. Under better future for all, every child reaches adulthood with the education and skills to pursue their dreams. Stewardship for the environment for future generations. Right to privacy, strict regulation and protection of personal information. Everyone should own their own personal data. That's what we got.
Good one.
Yeah, we missed some there, but they'll be in the transcript, right?
Okay.
Brilliant.
So continuing down our list for everything.
Find it.
Expanding the size of the House of Representatives. Enforcing the Voting Rights Act. Passing the ERA. Removing voter suppression. District of Columbia to have its own representative. Congress living under the same laws as everybody else. Getting rid of conflicts of interest as a corollary to the emollients clause.
Say that one again, sorry.
Eliminating conflicts of interest.
Okay, got it.
So that civil servants should have term limits of 12 years max. Some people thought that was too long. Ban price gouging on food and groceries. That's going to be difficult to implement without in getting into communism. Expand Medicare, home care, right to privacy, right to join unions, fair taxes, opportunity to provide fair taxes, environmental justice, compassionate policies, business having initiatives to promote healthy environments, preserving public education and everybody having the right to an education, universal health care, having a basic income. Better future is keeping DEI and fairness in hiring, keeping the Social Security and the other safety nets, having reproductive rights, separation of church and state, due process, a smooth and fair way for immigrants to come into the country and get citizenship, gun regulation.
Oh, good point.
And that's pretty much all our list. Under whatever group you want to put it.
Okay, so our group, you guys have covered a lot of it. I think of the individual things that you've mentioned. I think for unions, I think we had a stronger, trying to read what was written before, but we had a strong union should be supported and encouraged and are important for the workers. We also had concern about vagrancy laws that are hard for people. And I believe home ownership has been mentioned, but to support home ownership, and it's a little bit complicated, but with the idea that it's not a paucity of homes, but corporations, foreign countries, et cetera, that are buying up the homes and the land. And I believe climate change is there. Slavery should be out of the Constitution. What was meant by that was that in prisons, they still use slave labor. There was also concern about privatization of prisons, that private companies should not be running prisons. And I think in addition to all of these, our group also looked at the problem of the upcoming election. And we discussed the idea that there are so many issues, and a lot of these issues are, all of the issues are important. A lot of them are complex. They don't go into sound bits, and they also, or bytes, I guess, but they also are not recognized by everybody. So we were talking about for the purpose of an election, not for the purpose of what we would like the country to be like. We thought it was good to focus on things that are affecting people and affect the majority of us. And we came up with healthcare, social security. No, it's the wrong thing. I can't read my writing, but I think it's social security or social protections and immigration and the way the immigrants are being treated. And if anybody in the group can help me with my handwriting.
Well, I would just remind everybody that we have elections every year, and this year is all of the municipal elections. And they are critically important, especially here in PA, when the last thing on the ballot that everybody's going to skip over is the judicial retentions to keep the judges who are sane and not have, yes, buying corrupt judges.
Yeah, I just also wanted to mention that people were concerned about the federal government being gutted, basically, the ungoverning attack of this administration, and that everything will be falling to the states, and the states can't do it for the nation. And so that was important. And also someone from the group in the chat noted that it's important to advance candidates for these municipal and other offices that will get out there and start working at a grassroots level for us.
Great.
So if I
Well,
can kind of piggyback on that last kind of mention of the importance of civics. Our group Seeds of Change, for which I apologize to everybody there, I forgot to delegate. We needed to have somebody take a transcript and I didn't. So to you guys, I'm sorry, but I will definitely send my notes by email to Rebecca. Our focus was mostly on civics and education. I'm going to start on education first. Importance of a really solid foundation, right? There was emphasis on not passing kids along who could not read and write and have basic skills and do math. Emphasis on the use and practice of civics in the classroom and outside the classroom. A focus on science and history. Yeah, I have a lot of questions about history, but the importance was really emphasized, that it has to be real history that is taught. Preparation for life, aligning pay with societal values. So teachers should definitely be getting paid much more than a living wage, right? They are kind of helping us produce the future that we want. Let's see. Critical thinking. And on this note, there was particular emphasis made on synthesis, analysis, and one of the members made a point that critical thinking would be really useful, particularly right now, where all kinds of weaponization of formerly accurate, appropriate, and laudable verbiage has happened by one party. Let's see. Actual history, age-appropriate education, and then on to civics. And there was a lot of discussion of what we could do to make things more fair. We talked about the model of Australia potentially, where we know that they give holidays in order to encourage civic engagement. We talked about the potential of consolidating election days so that they happen a little bit less frequently, holding people accountable. I don't think we discussed like mandatory voting, but some version of that. Promoting a holiday atmosphere during elections. So like provision of food, for instance, making it a celebration. Same day voter registration and automatic voter registration. Let's see, kicking the People's United decision out of elections, and general election reform, term limits for judges. That's it.
Very good.
I think you've or everyone's pretty much said everything that we have mentioned in our group, except for Earth Care, People Care, and Fair Share was mentioned, as well as free public education 0 through college, like kindergarten all the way through college education. And freedom from coercive control. I don't believe that was mentioned anywhere. And
we talked about equity, using the word equity instead of socialism, because of, it's like a scary word for many people who are refugees from communist and socialist authoritarian regime. And I would like to have the schools have it mandatory to at certain stages, like the last class in your high school would be something about ethics.
Oh, ethics.
Yes.
Interesting. Great. I mean, we've got a lot here. Are there any other groups that haven't shared yet? Oh, there's people with their hands up. Sorry, I didn't realize. Okay. Jeannie, you're first on my screen.
Okay, the only thing I didn't see was affordable childcare and paid family leave, or even I think in some countries they have paid vacations, like 3 weeks of paid vacations. So paid family leave, but to allow most of our mothers into the workforce, that affordable childcare is just essential.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one thing that we may want to, I think that's a beautiful addition, and I'm glad that we didn't miss it. One thing that is just occurring to me now is that some of these are more policy and some of these are more like vision, and that's absolutely fine. Like the lines are blurry. Obviously, I know like when we say paid family leave, the vision there is we want people to be able to spend time with their family when there's a new addition or when there's family circumstances. So whether we're talking like actual policies or we're talking the vision, I get what you're saying. So yeah. Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, are we going to go through and like critique these comments? And the reason I bring that up is I take issue with the mandatory voting because that requires people to educate themselves. And if you just require everybody to vote, they'll just go and check boxes. They won't know what they're voting for.
It's unfortunate. There's far too many people who don't know what's going on.
Exactly, John.
And don't have, and for some of them, they don't want to know or don't need to know. That's fine too. But
that
There
lends
are
itself to
countries where they do
education, though.
mandatory voting, and they have very good turnouts, and they have supposedly more fair representation.
I think John Lewis's his voting rights act would have voter education as a part of that.
I think I remember that too.
Yeah. Voter education is I mean, it's imperative. We must educate our people more.
Yep, and everyone.
It's the responsibility of
easy.
educators, the educational system to
civics in high school.
make civics to make people want to participate.
I think
how do we encourage civic engagement?
I think one problem though is you've got a lot of these people that are homeschooled. They're isolationists. They get all of their information from the
One
internet,
channel.
From Fox News, or if they watch that much, or if they watch other conspiracy theory type podcasts, et cetera. So these are people who can't be easily educated through what we would consider normal means. There are people who, some I think will be untouchable, but I think there are people who, once they suffer, I think someone in our group, well, I know it's Diane from our group, is from rural Mississippi, which was very red. It talked about, people are starting to care now because they're starting to see these changes impact their livelihood, their health care, their news, the PBS, like in Alaska, where they rely on it just for their news. So, and the point being that if they don't see it, it doesn't exist.
Always. Hey, Rebecca, I want to just jump in here. This is Chris. I want to make sure, just because we're getting really close to time, that we get all the scribes from each of the rooms. So if there's any scribe that has not contributed to the input, it would be time to transition to them.
I would just like to add one thing, and I'm sure everyone will agree. No presidential immunity.
Yes.
Under democracy.
Thank you, Bruce.
Oh, yeah, definitely, Clara.
Yeah, I'd agree there.
So right now, is there any actual breakout room where the scribe has not had an opportunity to contribute before we just open it up for general comments?
Chris, this is Julie Austin, and I was the scribe for our group, the Ignition group, and I didn't know, or I'm on my iPad, so I didn't know that we're supposed to be typing in the individual sections.
Yeah,
But
you didn't need to type in the individual section.
So anyway, I was typing like in the chat, and then I was going to push the button, and then we got taken out of the room. So I did put in memory to Cecilia, notes from memory, and I just made a list out of our brainstorming. It's in the chat.
Okay. All right. So I know that the group that I was in, and I'm trying to remember who our leader or our scribe was. I know that we talked about things like green energy, and the environment, under Better Future for All. We talked about accessible green spaces, and community spaces. We talked about, under fairness and equity, racism, and making sure that we as part of our educational system, that we were making sure that we taught about our history, actual history, and the racism that existed. There was some things about fair distribution of wealth was a critical one, and tax and fair taxes was a big part of what came up in our group. Lillian talked about just wanting a vision for America where people are kind and compassionate and empathetic, versus the alternative. And is freedom of the press up there already? That was another one. And the concerns about misinformation and disinformation as a deterrent to our democracy when citizens can't be are not, basically the electorate isn't informed because they're being distracted by misinformation and disinformation. And I think we did get free, fair elections and actually increasing the opportunity for people to vote, meaning looking at ways where people can get involved and voting can be more accessible. And I think we are actually at the hour that we were supposed to finish. So unless there is,
well, I actually, when I had put the time slot together, yes, we wrap up the contributions, and then we can talk about next steps.
Okay. So I'll take your lead on where we are then.
Okay. I think, let's see, we can spend about 3 more minutes talking about getting input. I think we're a little light on this fairness and equity, so if anybody has perspective on that.
I wanted to ask a question about what about other groups that might be doing the same thing? How are they going to coordinate? I know that our U.S. representative in Cincinnati, Greg Landsman, is working on something, I think, similar to this. And they have not broadcast it or published it yet. But does anybody know of other groups that are doing the same thing?
There
Can
are
I
a
say-
there are a
okay.
lot. There are a lot. There are a lot of think tanks. There are, I don't know, university groups, grassroots coalitions of people that are thinking about this. And so the question is how to connect.
Well,
But
that's how I
if,
found you guys.
but right, if people don't, if we as a grassroots group don't have input about this and at least have a framework going forward about what we think is the most important, then just collecting ideas has a lot less meaning.
Absolutely.
Okay.
How do we coordinate with those other groups that you're talking about that are doing this? I mean, we
Well, I
need,
know that
We get their numbers and we just start calling.
Yeah, we just have
Can
to
I-
do the research.
Hey, this
No.
is Chris. I was going to say, when we get to the next steps, we have some ideas about how we might use the work that comes out of this group. And I'll talk about that a little bit as we're wrapping up.
Yeah,
Hi,
you know,
Chris.
Chris
Is that
mentioned green space, but can we add national parks and public lands, and that fracking doesn't need to be anywhere ever? I don't think fracking
That's
is good for anybody.
That's right. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to say that that's how I found you. I mean, I only take up a little bit of space, but I've been to a couple of rallies with protests, or I don't think it's not really a protest, but it's just voicing concerns on how to save our country. Indivisible. And I get these emails, and that's how I became acquainted with you. And I am from grassroots. I actually work for a nonprofit, and I volunteer for Delaware. I'm an active member of Delaware Concern for Environmental Justice. And the priest at St. Andrews and St. Matthews has asked me to become a part of their housing task force, because they have a stewardship there, not only for environmental justice, but they also have a stewardship for the homeless. So the word is actually getting around. And I just believe, as people, I'm going to actually try to give it out as much as I can, so that people like me will be able to have the same kinds of conversations and exchange the information so that it can be added upon, and not just all of us in silos. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dora. Okay, we've got time for maybe 1 or 2 folks. Rick, go ahead.
I'll be very brief, just building on the issue of networking. I'll put a link in this. I did an AI search on this. All of us are members of different groups. I was very active in Represent Us, that was fighting corruption. And rather than reinventing the wheel, the elephant in the room is the corrupt system. And all these great ideas are not going to get very far until we unrig the system. That was one of the slogans of Represent Us. And I think we have to focus on the corruption, fix the corruption, unrig the system, and study that and network with organizations to amplify those messages. But we have to have more than a negative message. We have to have a positive one as well.
Yes.
And
a strategy.
A
We need a
strategy,
strategy.
exactly.
Yeah.
We certainly do, and a vision.
what's the message here? I mean, I
And
just
understand the audiences. Yeah, and you know, there are many different audiences, and we have to segregate those audiences into what they care about. I'm a marketing person, so I think that way.
And
I
I
agree with
agree
him.
with you, Yvonne. And I also think that we have to become more positive and recognize yes, we know it needs to be changed, and saying, okay, let's take this opportunity. Everybody think about what's going on. Let's get together. And for us to have a strategy,
right?
You know, we have to have a thesis. I'm a teacher, you know,
Yes,
to convince your audience. What's your thesis? What are we producing all this evidence for?
Right.
And it is to preserve our democracy, but we have to let people know, you know, that a strong federal government has its positives in terms of addressing the needs of these people. If you travel to other countries that don't have a strong federal government, you see the difference, visibly see it. And it's like, okay, I'll go pay my taxes. You know, I like having the streets plowed. I like having policemen. I like having stop signs. I like having this organization, you know, state laws. Yes, please. But I like federal laws too. They work for us. History shows that
at least they used to.
Government works. It can work. Yes. And it works if we have politicians and elected officials who have integrity. And so let's find it within ourselves and share it in our everyday reporting. I mean, you know, let's get the media to start talking about what the Democrats are doing. All the media does is tell everybody the Democrats don't know what they're doing. They don't have a message.
And we're telling ourselves we don't know what we're doing. And that's disturbing.
I didn't mean to lecture.
No, I agree with you. I know.
So
We
just because
change
we are
that
running up
dynamic.
against time here, I do want to make sure that we can talk about next steps, because you are all absolutely right. We need a positive message. We need a strategy. That's what we're here for. This is our positive vision. This is what we're about. So like this is the vision. And then I know people still have their hands up, and it is like killing me to keep us moving. But are there any like bullet points that people need to add that we don't have on here?
I think we shouldn't throw out the Constitution the way it is. We need to look. Don't throw out the Constitution. I don't see that anywhere.
Well, we can amend the Constitution.
Exactly. We need to look at the Constitution and not rewrite it from scratch.
Right.
Strengthen it, and then build in a way to change it in the future.
Right. That's a positive attitude towards it instead of criticizing the Constitution. We don't want to do that. We're just saying it's our society has changed.
Okay, and you were talking about under fairness and equity. I think a good point would be to reinstate DEI wherever it's been removed.
Absolutely.
Can I ask, is there any way that we could maybe look at the Constitution from a different perspective and maybe think about it in a different way, as in realize that it needs to be written from a perspective of inclusiveness, because it you know what I mean? Because it really, when it was written, it was not inclusive. And so I know we've had all these additions. I know we have amended it. I understand, but the original document was not meant for everyone. Therefore, the system that has become, that as a result, the system that has resulted from it has resulted in where we are now. Do y'all understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I think that somebody wrote something in there to look at those things that were sort of not truthful in the way it was written. I mean, and we need to weed those things out that you were talking about that are you know, a sign of the times.
Yeah.
Back
We
then.
just need to be really honest about that.
Exactly.
Well, we could, yeah. I agree.
All right. I'm gonna, unfortunately, I have to do bedtime in like 15 minutes. So we got to wrap this up. So I know folks still have their hand up. Judith, thank you for putting your part in the Discord. That was a great idea. Anybody else who still has their hand up, please just give me a quick couple of bullet points in the chat. We'll capture the chat and we'll make sure that it all gets pulled together. I appreciate it. You guys are amazing. Look at this beautiful vision that we're all building together. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Chris to talk about where we go from here.
Yeah, hi everyone. All I can say is, having looked at the vision, I am ready to move to Venus. I mean, great job, everybody. So where, just to kind of recap where we've been. So we started in our very first session talking about values, and then we kind of organized those values into just a framework, just to help it make easier to look at. And today we imagine the America that does not yet exist, and what our dreams are for America going forward. So next session, which is on the 20th of August, is our next session, is where we're going to start talking about the platform and the policy. And so we are so lucky, as Rebecca mentioned earlier, that we have one of our colleagues that already started, basically, I'll give you it in Joe's words. He started a document where he was writing to his congressional leaders, and basically said, here's a framework. It kind of lays out what I think our most important vision is. So in his words, he wanted to start a conversation with his reps calling for a positive vision, a sense of urgency, and strong action to meet the moment. He laid out what he called an aggressive communication action plan based on pro-democracy values. And he basically said, so he wasn't really talking about a Project 2025 type document. He was basically talking about just this very broad framework with 3 or 4 main ideas and messages that he suggested that his leaders consider. So we have that posted on the Discord, and I think Rebecca was also going to talk about dropping it in the chat. So as we move forward into this next phase of our project, we're going to ask that you look at the Discord channel. And here are some of the articles that we're going to suggest, because what you may be aware of is that there are a number of our leaders, our Democratic leaders, our pro-democracy leaders that are basically, some of you are familiar with Heather Cox Richardson, Elisa Slotkin, who have laid out what they think, their version of what America should look like. Okay, so I'll ask you to look at some of those. So you see people from J.B. Pritzker to Elisa Slotkin, Tim Waltz, and then even this, there was a panel discussion with the Democrats. They have 2 caucuses. One is a progressive caucus. One is called the New Dems, and they kind of laid out. One thing I will tell you, having read or listened to all of these, focusing on making life affordable for everyone was a common theme through every single one. Okay, so that's kind of your homework, if you will. Also look at Joe's document where he starts, kind of laying this out. And then it's going to vary. People will use this document. So when we get to kind of our collective document that everybody will have input into, some people are going to say, okay, that's a nice framework. Some people may take that to their legislators and say, this is what we think is really important. And we want to make sure that whatever you're working on, whether it's with a think tank or independently, that you capture these big ideas. Because somebody talked about how we might use this. We know that for many people in the group, they're really hoping we just get to the messaging, okay? But we're gonna, as we talked about it, it's a 5-phase process. And then we will get to how we message, whether it's on the platform, the policy, the things that are important to us, all based on our shared values. So I am going to turn it back over to Rebecca for the closing.
Yes. So thank you all so much for your participation tonight. We continued to shape this vision, which is not just about resisting what's wrong, because we think about that way too much. Donald Trump has way too much geography in my head, in my brain space, but it's about building what's right. And I know it's not easy and people are tired. I know I'm tired. It's almost bedtime, but this is community. There's a bunch of us here. There's still over 50 people here, which is amazing. We are not alone. We are not powerless. Chris mentioned Heather Cox Richardson. She is so wonderful. She reminds us the way you change politics is to change the way people think. And the way people think, the way you change the way people think is that you make sure your voice is heard and you find your friends and you speak together. So that's what we're doing. Together, we're going to continue to build stone by stone and word by word. So we hope to see everybody here on our next session, which is Wednesday, August 20th, which is 3 weeks from yesterday. And then after that, we'll go every other Wednesday. So note down these dates, and we hope to see you then. Thanks, everybody, and have a great night.
Bye. Have a good night.
Is the link going to be the same as today's?
Thank you.
Yes.
This was great.